If you've felt like the BTS spaces have suddenly gotten darker recently, more hate, more panic, more fans who really do not sound like ARMY, you're not imagining it. There are rumors going around at the moment about Jungkook and a member of a girl group. There are the old flames of that story about Jimin and an actress that are being fanned again because they get clicks. There are people pushing conspiracies, and some of them have now gone so far as to accuse Jungkook of being an abuser based on bruises in a photo that do not involve him in any way. That's not tea. That is a hard line that has been crossed. So today on Only Facts, I want to ask a simple question. What we're looking at is, are these really concerned ARMY, or as a fandom, are we being played? And if we are, what are we going to do about it? Hi, I'm CJ, and this is Only Facts. This is the quick take of a much longer discussion that I'll be having with you tomorrow on the podcast version of this on the second channel. So we're going to go through the outline of what I'd like to talk about here. And then if you're interested and you want more facts, more receipts, we can do that tomorrow. So on this channel, we put the feels and the emotions to one side. And what we look at is receipts, we look at context, and we look at consequences of what's happening. A couple of quick ground rules before we start. I am not here to attack any small accounts or to target any individuals. It's not what we're doing. I'm not here to diagnose entire fandoms or nationalities or corporations. That's also not what we're here for. What I am going to talk about is the patterns we're seeing, how we've seen them before in K-pop and in politics, and the way that people have monetized hate against BTS in the past. So what we recognize here as patterns, and give some evidence and some context that will be especially interesting to you, ARMY, who are new-ish, even adjacent. 2020 on, you may not know some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about today. So I have been ARMY since Wings era, and I have seen a lot in my years with the fandom. You don't have to agree with every dot that I'm going to try and connect today. That's fine. My job is just to lay out the examples and the receipts and the facts, and then you make up your own mind about what you think is going on. I just ask the questions and then we'll go through it together. So what I want to do today is, again, lay out the evidence, talk about what is fact, what is speculation, and then I think we all need to kind of ask ourselves, what kind of ARMY do we want to be in this moment? How do we feel the best way to respond to all this is? So let's talk about the atmosphere in BTS spaces recently. A lot of us have noticed this on social media, Twitter or Facebook. Even within my own Patreon, there's been a lot of examples of this brought in. So what we've noticed is new or very low history accounts showing up on Weverse, which should be a protected space, and on Twitter, suddenly acting like long-term fans, pushing very similar talking points about how ARMY has turned on BTS and no one cares about them anymore. K-pop has moved on to newer groups. They're done. They want to stir up panic. And then they disappear en masse. Like, not that they've been suspended for spreading hate. The accounts just delete themselves, deactivate themselves, and they're gone. And not just one or two. We're talking about a dozen or more at a time. Analysts like HYBE, who is a very well-respected commentator on what's happening, not just within HYBE, but on the industry in general, have pointed out that something feels off in the current posting patterns and has spoken about how this echoes things that we've seen in the past. Again, that doesn't prove that there's bots or some secret agency, but I agree that as a long-term fan who has been on Twitter far longer than I'd care to admit, even far longer than I've been in the fandom. This looks different from a normal mess. At the same time, we have these dating rumors and we have the hate trains firing on all cylinders. So I want to separate a couple of very different situations, and then we can pull it all back together. So first off, we've got the dating rumors around Jungkook versus the dating rumors around Jimin. And we're going to talk a little bit about why those are different, why what's happening now with Jungkook fits more clearly into this pattern than what we saw with Jimin. So these rumors have been ramped up because of forum posts and articles claiming they have matching tattoos. Most recently, they were both at a concert. We'll ignore the fact that there were like 80,000 people at the concert and not all of them are dating either of these two celebrities. It's people like zooming in on screenshots and priming you to see similarities in things, whether it's the tattoos or fashion or accessories, so that when you do look at it, your brain is already trying to see the similarities rather than looking at it objectively and going, I'm not so sure. The important part, though, is that none of this is coming from the parties involved at all. So there is no statement, there is no deliberate content from either of them intentionally trying to hint at any sort of relationship. This is, whether they're fans or antis, connecting the dots as they try to do. And now some people have taken it way too far by claiming that bruises on this woman's body were put there by Jungkook, which is absolutely one of the most despicable things I can think of someone saying at all about anyone. That's not analysis. That is disgusting and a dangerous fantasy. Weaponizing the language of abuse is, just because you want to attack an idol who might not like or do the things that you want them to do. Weaponizing the language of abuse makes it harder for real victims of abuse to be heard. It not just harms the people that you're accusing who've done nothing to invite that speculation, but it does make people who are actually going through these situations, it makes it more difficult for them to get the help and airtime that they need for their own real problems. So in this case, we can see that the villain here is really these rumor accounts and the click farmers, the people who are throwing this stuff out there because they want attention and or the monetization from it, which is key. There are people who have already decided they don't like Jungkook for whatever reason and are looking for ways to punish him. Hands down. We're going to say it again here. There's no proof that any of this is true. But I want to compare that to the rumors that we had about Jimin and the actress and why those are different and don't fit into the same pattern. So those weren't from fans connecting the dots. Those came directly from that woman. And they've been reignited repeatedly by her own content and what she's trying to achieve. So we've had Instagram and TikTok posts believed to show her in his space. We had the elevator video where poor Jimin looked very uncomfortable being ambushed like that. And now more recently, a Christmas TikTok filled with dolls and figures that people have read as a, ooh, nod, nod, wink, wink, we're spending Christmas together or have spent Christmas together in the past. Whatever you personally believe around their past, you can't ignore the fact that these rumors keep coming back because she personally keeps igniting them. BigHit did something almost unheard of within their agency, which is they stepped in and they commented. They don't normally do this, but they did in this case. They released their official statement that said, yes, Jimin and this woman had a friendly social relationship in the past. It was years ago. They do not have any sort of relationship now. Stop speculating and just stop thinking about it. So the only truth in this that matters for the point that we're trying to make today is that anyone still leaning on Jimin's name or his house or his image to fuel lives and views is going against what he and his team have specifically asked for. And if those lives are monetized with gifts and donations and paid access, then yes, these people, the people hate watching, the people doom scrolling, trying to find evidence that there is a problem going on here or some reason to dislike Jimin, are absolutely, literally funding this. However, the difference here is that the rumors with Jungkook are Fandom created, and the rumors with Jimin were specifically coming from this one individual who was repeatedly bringing it up in order to get attention and money for herself. Either way, let's zoom out, because none of this is happening in a vacuum. This is part of a much larger picture. So I want to take you back to earlier this year, where BOYNEXTDOOR had to cancel their Bangkok concert because of an earthquake in that region. The communication around the whole thing was messy, no doubt. The announcement went up and then deleted. Hello? I'm not going to cut that out. I'll just leave him in. Don't mind him. The announcement went up and then got deleted, and then it was reposted after the group was already leaving. The whole thing was badly handled. Fans absolutely had a right to be upset because of the way it was handled. What isn't normal about the situation is what happened next. Posts about it went viral among Chinese netizens. Large numbers of non-fans, so people who were not part of the BOYNEXTDOOR fandom at all, joined with the Weavers purely to send hate and even death threats to these poor people. Hashtags on other platforms demanded mass unfollows and punishing the group for what they did. So the reason I bring this up is this is a very documented case where the loudest fans in a fandom space were not actually fans at all. They were outsiders that were using a fandom space like a battlefield for punishment. So when ARMY look at Weavers right now, which is supposed to be a protected and safe space, despite the fact that, in my opinion, HYBE does a rubbish job of keeping it that way, if we look at it and say, this doesn't feel normal and this doesn't feel like us, we're absolutely right to think that way. So do we have a clear example of this happening or something similar happening with BTS themselves? Yes, many, but the one I'll give you today, there's more to come tomorrow. We're going to go back to 2017. So in 2017, Jimin wore a t-shirt celebrating Korean independence from Japanese colonial rule. It had atomic bomb imagery on it and liberation adjacent text, shall we say. This photo lived quietly online for about a year. Then in late 2018, Japanese right-wing media found it, they dug it up, and they reframed it as anti-Japanese hate. One of the TV stations canceled the BTS appearance that was imminent. There was massive outrage at that point in time. It was an awful, awful, horrible time for the members and for us trying to support them in the fandom. This did not happen in a neutral context. This wasn't just about some people taking offense to one of Jimin's fashion choices. Around that same time, Japan and South Korea were already locked in heated disputes over the 2015 Comfort Women Agreement about whether Japan owed further compensation and reparation to the survivors from that. There were statues and memorials that the Japanese wanted taken down. Now, I'm not chiming in on any sort of political thing here. What I'm saying is that decades of unresolved guilt and anger and consequences were poured onto Jimin for one t-shirt. But how did ARMY respond at that point in time? Of course, we didn't all just go, well, we all just hate Japan now for something that came out of a TV station at one point in time. Absolutely not. That is not how we responded at all. At that point in time, ARMY mass donated to Comfort Women causes in Jimin's name. We streamed even harder and put songs in the charts again that hadn't been there in years. And we turned a smear campaign into a history lesson so that people understood what this outrage was, in the hopes that everyone could try and understand both sides and move past it. Fast forward to 2025 now. And the idea that there are malicious actors specifically targeting BTS for gain. You have HYBE now going to one of the US courts to unmask a Twitter account accused of long-term defamation and harassment. They've clearly done the same in Korea already, many times, but now you have them actively working in America too. You don't file international legal action because someone said, "Oh, I don't like this song." You don't even file it because they have a problem with something that the members are wearing. You do this only when you believe the activity is sustained and it's organized and it's harmful enough to cross both criminal and civil legal boundaries. So when people say, "Oh, it's just the fandom, it's just being dramatic," that is not the full story. You don't sick your lawyer team, your legal team, on an account just because they're being a little bit dramatic. Some of this is structured and some of this is strategic. So, here's what I have to say from an only facts point of view. We cannot say that every nasty Weverse post or Twitter thread is part of a giant conspiracy run by a rival company or foreign government or even another fandom. We cannot point to one person or group of people who are the villains in this whole situation. What we can say is we have recent evidence of non-fans flooding fandom spaces, intentionally trying to start fires and cause problems. And that is on Weverse, which is BTS's home platform. We have historic evidence of political tensions even being transformed into idol hate because of a wider geopolitical situation. And we have legal proof that at least some of the smear activity is organized enough that HYBE and BigHit are taking these people to court. So we also know that some of the hate comes from clout chasers, as we've seen in one of the gossip or one of the dating rumors. We've seen that some of it comes from people with shipping agendas. No doubt at all. That will include Jungkookers as well as other parts of the shipping world, shall we say. And some of it comes from people who aren't interested or have a neutral opinion on BTS completely. And they're just in it for the cash. They know if they throw up a really, really controversial title on their video, they will get tons of clicks and make lots and lots of money off of it. So the evidence is there for when we say this does not feel like ARMY, that we are probably right. So now I want to speak to you guys as followers of my work, my channel, as Jungkookers in particular. There are people out there pushing narratives right now they want us to adopt, and some of those will 100% be being fueled by the success that Are You Sure Season 2 is having, and about the closeness of the bond that they see between Jimin and Jungkook in that series. 100%, no doubt. They want us to believe that Jungkook is secretly dating someone else and is potentially an abuser. With that, they want to believe that Jimin is in some secretly never-ending drama with this actress who keeps throwing up random bits of homeware and accessories, hoping to get more attention or more people paying for access to her lives. The people out there want us to believe that BTS is finished. They want us to believe that this comeback is not going to come to anything, that the reason it's been pushed back to next year is that they've lost their talent and they don't have any. They want us to believe all this absolute nonsense. Our job as G-Cookers and as ARMY is to just look at what's right in front of us. We have a decade, over a decade, of this beautiful, beautiful bond between Jimin and Jungkook. We have them choosing each other, again, in public and in private moments, because that companion enlistment was not a public thing. That was a very, very private thing and a very private decision. And they chose each other. And don't try and give me any sort of garbage about, well, it's only because other members weren't available. Not true. The way they move around each other in Are You Sure, especially when they think no one else is watching, not that I think Jungkook really cared who was watching, that was filmed literally days after they'd been discharged from the military, where they had just spent every one of 18 months glued to each other's sides. Clearly not bored of each other, are they? So the consistency of their bond and their comfort and their eye contact and their touch across decades. Stay focused. Stay focused at what's right in front of you, and don't let mysteries and ghosts and little things being thrown at you with no evidence at all interfere with what you can actually see with your own eyes, okay? We don't need to borrow rumors from people who don't even like BTS, let alone Jimin and Jungkook. We don't need to adopt the narratives built by these people who are looking to profit from hurting them or damaging their reputation. Again, I'll give you the same advice I always give you. What do we do with this? We do not give these accounts air. Try to resist the urge to quote retweet in order to correct them. It's feeding the algorithm. Don't hate watch monetized lives. Don't hate watch videos. Don't do that to yourself, guys. It's harming your own mental health, and it's also literally paying them for it. So try and avoid it, okay? Use the tools you have. Report and block and mute, and try to just walk away. Transform all that rage, convert all that rage into love, and keep streaming. Keep out there and streaming. Namjoon said it the other day. Focus on you and us. And he means that, because he's been through it before. He's seen this all before. This is where we huddle up. It's BTS and ARMY in our magic shop. We're there with each other, and nothing that happens in the rest of it matters. Absolutely nothing. Focus on the music and the messages and the art, and just let the noise fade away. So we don't need to fight every stranger on the internet about who they think is dating who. We can just simply say, it's not interested, and go back to celebrating the bond that we see between Jimin and Jungkook and enjoying the Are You Sure content. So not everyone who's trying to make the loudest noise in the fandom right now is ARMY. We have seen this before. I have pages of examples to go through with you in the deep dive tomorrow. And not just about BTS. So really, if you are interested in hearing more about how this type of thing can get out of control and how our beautiful, beautiful 7 men can get dragged into situations on a global scale with literally global influence because of the power they wield, we're going to have a chat tomorrow. So, drown hate in love, right? Streaming parties, charity projects, positive hashtag trends. We've done it before. We can do it again. Not because we're naive at all, not because we don't notice that the hate is there, and not because stopping the hate isn't important. It definitely, definitely is. Report and block. Report and block. We know exactly who BTS are because we've been there with them for years, and they know exactly who ARMY are because we've been with them for years. And that's it. If you want facts, those are your facts. So thank you for sticking with me for this long. We've got an even longer one tomorrow over on the at CJ Moon Stories channel. I love you guys. I purple you. Sarangay.